Testing, testing. Just give it a few minutes, just a minute, see if anyone shows up. Just see if anyone shows up here. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get started then. So, hello, welcome to another watch along, and this time another look into one of Shyamalan's movies. And unfortunately, we have now reached the point where we're taking a look at what is regarded as Shyamalan's worst film, and just one of the worst movies of all time, and one of my least favorite films ever, and that is The Last Airbender from 2010. So yeah, this movie is quite the reputation, you could say. But is it? But after what? 16 years now since this film came out? Is it really as bad as we all remember it was? Well, I think we all know the answer to that. But for the sake of argument, let's let's go and find out. Let me just go ahead and get this ready. Just getting it to where it needs to go. By the way, for anyone's wondering, yeah, the stream crashed yesterday because I tried to do we did try to do the stream yesterday, but then 40 minutes into the film, it just decided the disconnect. So we're gonna try this again, and let's just hope it doesn't happen again. So yeah. Anyway, I got the film ready to go. Let's go ahead and turn this on. Hope y'all ready to suffer with me because this movie is pretty bad. So 3, 2, 1, play. Okay, close enough. All right. The Last Airbender. Keep in mind, this movie was released just, what, 2 years after the show ended? So, yeah, totally not a cash grab, right? Water, earth, fire, air. Barely started, and already I'm hating this. Because this is just exposition dump, but then again, that's kind of what this film is, so. Book 1, Water. Yeah, as if they were expecting this to adapt all 3 books, considering how badly this film tanked at the box office. It's Great use of saying the word food twice within the sentence there, Katara. Oh yeah, sure, a fire joke. Just And there's our brief glimpse into Zuko. Stellar performances, wouldn't you say? Like I know they're just kids, but come on, this line delivery, like really? I wonder what this kid's doing now. I mean, hopefully he's in better stuff. And we're like what 7.5 minutes in, and already we're getting the Fire Nation attack. Like, So yeah, that's Zuko apparently. You can't even see the scar. You only just met the kid. I mean, granted, the show made more sense. Y'all had time to get to know each other, but here y'all barely interacted. It's really like you didn't get a chance to know this bison creature's name. Like, ugh. Which begs the question: how did they get the thing to fly? Considering they don't know how to say the command. Yip yip. Considering that, in the show, at least Ainge showed them that's try, or at least try to get to show him that's how what he says to get him to fly. You mean arrow? Hammer. They just name dropped Hammer. As that's supposed to mean anything to people who didn't watch the show. But anyway, like me who has watched the show, yeah, you're just name dropping as just a reference. I'm guessing they did make an adaptation of the third book, they would have brought her in. But like, Thanks, exposition, Granny. Wow. You wouldn't even have him. Man, we're like 16 and a half minutes into this. Like, by this point in the show, like, we'd only be nearly done with like the first episode. And at that point, we already got to know quite a bit about the characters. And this is just, this movie really is just breezing by the important stuff from the show because it's trying to cram all of season one into 1 hour and 40 minute long movie. Like, it's frustrating. Like, we don't even get him like water bend like the nation like he did in the show. It's like, really? On? Really? Really, Guitar? You only now asked him his name, so you've known for how long at this point? Even though you technically asked him what his name was earlier, but I guess you never got an answer. Why does Momo almost look like Zaboomafoo? Yeah. Mm. Okay, and who's this dragon person? So already at this point, they've crammed the first 3 episodes of season one into 22 minutes, which yeah. And then we got this film's take on Admiral Zhao, which yeah. Also, why does the Fire Nation look like Indian? Like, and I don't mean Native American Indian. I mean Indian Indian. Like, I get it. Shyamalan is Indian himself, but yeah, I don't get what's with the weird race changes this film went through. Great, more exposition. You know, it'd be nice if you could show us this stuff and not just spew it out. Okay, then. So I guess we're not getting the Agni Kai between Zuko and Zhao. These characters really just speak in exposition. There's no like, there's very little, to, if any, like emotional bonding, the character bonding or anything like that. It's and very amateur at that. And yeah, apparently the Earth bending prison is not on a ship this time. It's just within the temple where they could easily just bend the Earth. Like, really? So Aang's giving this speech instead of Katara? Like, really? Sheesh, this dialogue. Really, Katara, just push him instead of using your water bone? Yeah, that's the other thing. We barely get any bending in this film. Really? Really? It took 5 earthbenders to shove that little rock. Like, it's not like they can have 5 benders to shove a tank or anything. Like, really? That was unimpressive. This hurts to watch, less to listen to. You know that? You know, it's funny because even though I technically never seen this film in its entirety before watching this before now, most of what I know through the film is through the nostalgia critics review and other reviewers, and it definitely gives a new perspective when you actually watch the film yourself and not just watch someone's review of it because you really get a better idea of just how bad this film really is. Okay, why do we need a narration at this point? Just whatever. It'd be nice if we see these towns because yeah, you kind of missed out King Boomy and the Kyoshi Warriors and a bunch of other stuff. Mm, Back to the Fire Nation. So yeah, this apparently supposed to be Ozai. You really couldn't find an actor that would look imposing enough to be the Fire Lord, and so you got this chubby looking person. Like really? Like no offense to the actor, but seriously? Not to mention you just flat out showed the Fire Lord when the whole idea in the show is that they never showed his face until season three. It's just like uh, where's Iroh's sense of humor? Come on. This movie has a 5% of Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, and even that sounds pretty high. Okay, 5% critic, but 30% by the audience score. Okay, who is the 30% who vote said this film was good? Andy Kai. Come on, what? Why can't they pronounce any of these names right? Seriously. Okay, so this movie actually wasn't a bomb, I guess. Cause oh yeah, I guess that's meant to be Azula. Jeez. So this movie had a budget of $150 million, but it made back almost 320 million. So I guess it wasn't a box office bomb or anything. It was just a. It was just a. I guess it was just more of a critical failure instead. Okay, so it is considered a box office disappointment. I guess it. I guess it didn't make the money it needed to make. Gosh, the pacing of this film is just awful. I swear. I mean, it's just they just rush through all this. But then again, this is what happens. You try to turn a 20 episode season into an hour and 40 minute long film. It's. I'm sorry. I'm just getting so bored of this movie. I'm just kind of looking up reviews on IMDb just to see them. By the way, in case anyone's wondering, I haven't watched the Netflix live action show that they've been doing. I know its second season should be coming out later this year. I've heard it's at least better than this movie, but even then, I still don't understand the point. Yeah, Avatar, more like awful tar. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Sorry, I'm just looking at IMDb's reviews, see what they say. Oh, someone gave this a 7 out of 10. Who is this? See, that's the thing with adaptations is that you really have to judge them in two different perspectives. Judge as someone who knows the source material and one who doesn't know the source material. because I feel like if you because okay, so a little bit of interesting thing. I only saw a few episodes of the show before seeing like bits and pieces of this film, and for what I remember seeing, even back then, before fully watching the show, I even then I didn't like this one because I thought it was so boring. Now, as someone who has watched the show, it's one of those cases where the film's even worse when you know the source material. And whenever I see, like, listen, you're allowed to like whatever you like, but whenever I see people make positive reviews of this film, I have to question their. I really have to question what they saw in this film. Okay, someone wrote here, this is a film truly at a similar spectacular scope of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. Really? Like, are you serious? Okay, I think we're caught up to where I originally left off before the stream crashed or somewhere at the time. Okay, the show is awesome. Okay, sorry, I was reading this other review saying, I guess someone trying to defend like the film's rush pace and say, no, well, I don't know, saying that this is a film for kids. The show was made for kids too, moron. All right, just the fact there are people who have watched the show admit they like this film is what baffles me. Like, how? Like, they, I don't know. I don't get it. Okay, so now we're getting to the part where we see Zuko in his the blue bandit or whatever it's called. I can't remember. Jeez. Okay, I like this 1 out of 10 review someone wrote. Even my 4-year-old was correcting the movie. Yeah, when a 4-year-old boy sits and complains about how wrong the movie is and asking why they didn't put this in it or why is such and such out of order, you know you have royally screwed up. Yeah. So don't give me this argument. This movie is made for kids because if a kid who's a fan of the show can see how awful the film adaptation is, then yeah, you don't have any room to make that excuse. I mean, I guess Netflix had the right idea of making their live action adaptation as a show and not a film. But even then, I don't. To tell you the truth, I don't get the point in making a live action reimagining of the series. The show is great the way it is. There's no need for a remake. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But I guess we have to appeal to that one demographic who thinks animation is an art form that can't be taken seriously. I'm not kidding. I've met people like that. I've actually met some people who said they would rather watch this movie than the show simply because it's not animated. It's just it's infuriating. I'm sure they're the same people who support the Disney live action remakes. It's yeah, I guess slow motion is what I wanted to see in my last Airbender film. I mean, we have less than an hour left, but even then, I get the feeling it's just going to slow down from this point. It's sheesh. Yeah, trying to fit 10 hours of a well, sorry, I'm reading another review someone did positive about this movie. Like, I trying to fit 10 hours of a season in 2 hours of a movie is difficult. People are never satisfied. If a Well, that's also part of the problem. Is that's exactly the problem people have. They're trying to fit, but the problem is they're skipping so many important like moments from the show that or rushing through moments that need more character building. I don't know. It's just really we're not going to have and of course. Why have character building mode? We could just have more exposition. It's Gondor? Is it weird to say this movie feels like it's paced too slow and too fast at the same time? I know that doesn't sound like make a lot of sense, but that's what this movie feels like. Again, why did you need to say that, Qatar? We could just had a moment where Sokka and Yui got to know each other, but no, you just had to flat out say it. It's oh yeah. What was that jump cut? What the? Okay. Wow, these effects look like shit. Okay, we're finally at the hour mark. There's still like what just a little over 40 minutes left. Eek. So basically, a good chunk of this film just takes place in the Northern Water Tribe. Like they could have, which I mean, I guess in a way that kind of almost adds up to the last two episodes of the show of season one, which I could be watching that instead. But honestly, that play that A and his friends went to see, the Empire Island Players, was a better representation of the show than this movie is, and that was just meant to be a parody. So, it would be nice if we saw you two interacting over these weeks, but it's almost as if this movie is banking on us fans who's watched the show and feel like, well, the emotions are already there because you watched the show. So who's the that doesn't make this movie any more pointless. Is this the first time in this whole movie Sokka tries to act sarcastic and attempt at being funny? Despite like that's kind of part of his whole thing in the show. It's yeah. So like the first portion of the film, it just kind of breezes by the good of the show, and then the last 40 minutes, it's kind of slowed down a lot, which would be fine if they at least give moment to build character. But so far, they really haven't done that. It's just I don't know. I was ready to, this to be over with, and we still have less than 40 minutes left. It's Not gonna tell him that you love him, Aro? Just okay, fine, whatever. The next thing. Really gets hard because you haven't really shown how skilled you are at protecting him. Which I mean, sure, she was in the show, but here you're kind of a wuss. What part of "Don't disturb him" do you not understand? And you suck. But okay, well, hold up. Really? It's just a regular Komodo dragon? Like, whereas the show it was Komodo rhinos? Like, are you serious? You couldn't even give it horns? Well, the waterbending sucks. About got like less than half an hour left. So almost getting there. Really, you're doing a Tom and Jerry trick on him? Gosh, Abba looks terrible. I guess the actor who plays Iroh is fine. It's just that he just lacks the humor he had from the show. I mean, there's still I guess there's the attempt. I don't know, it's just oh come on, Saga, don't try having emotion now. You had the whole movie to chance. Okay, just get to the part where the water spirit swallows Zhao up. So they just drown him like that. Yeah, yada yada yada. Just get to the point. Yeah, but for sure those couple guys are dead. And I felt nothing during that final battle. Because why should I care about these characters, in all honesty? And meanwhile, we get the stinger. $3 years. It's supposed to be a year. So yeah, that's apparently meant to be Azula. Written, produced, and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Oh boy. Okay, jeez. All right. Based on the series. Yeah, based is the loose term here. So, yeah. Yeah. So that was M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender 2010. And what can I say, folks? It sucks. It is 16 years later, it's still probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Like, even if you've never watched the show, it still sucks. Like, you have no reason to be invested in these characters and their journey because the show never gives a time to, like, have them have a moment. Like, like, we understand, like, their mission and all that, but why? Like, how do I say this? The movie's more interested in just explaining their missions and their goals, but not actually, you know, there's just no emotion to that. That's the thing too. It's like really the biggest issue with this movie. There's just no heart or emotion to it, which is a big deal for the show because the show is very emotional and gave you reasons to care about these characters. But this movie, yeah, and I don't get because I was checking out reviews on IMDb just out of curiosity if there were any positive reviews, and sure enough, there are. And it's definitely one of those cases where you really some of the reviews I've read are from people who admitted they never saw the show before in this film and they did like the film and didn't understand the hate. Well, you that shows you really need to watch the show to understand because you are missing out on a spectacular series. And I guess the one good thing to come out of this movie, and you could say this with any remake or whatever, is that it does make you appreciate the show even more. Like even if you already love the show, you'll love even more. Like it does. I don't know. It still baffles me that there are people out there who will admit that they would rather watch this over the show because, well, at least it's not animated. Like I'm not kidding. I've seen numbnuts like that before. It's like, and like I said, I never saw the Netflix show. I've heard mixed things about it. Like, I mean, I doubt it's as bad as this movie because at least it's a show, and you're at least willing to give more time to, have the emotional bits. I'm assuming, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do a watch along of the Netflix series someday. But I just, I'm just glad I got this film out of the way because I'll be honest. When I decided I was going to do the Shyamalan movies, you can imagine this was the film I was the least anticipated to see because And yeah, apparently this is the movie that essentially destroyed Shyamalan's reputation for a while. I mean, already he wasn't doing well with films like Lady in the Water and The Happening, but at least, let me put it this way: I'd rather watch Lady in the Water and Happening over this again any day, because at least Lady in the Water had an interesting concept. It just wasn't executed that well, and The Happening was at least so bad it was funny. Like, it was awful, mind you. The Happening was terrible, but at least it was funny. Like, it was at least a funny bad movie. This is just boring and insufferable. Like I said before, it's like the pacing, it's both too slow and too fast at the same time. Like, it starts off going way too fast, and then the last 40 minutes, it goes by way, way too slow, which is weird because it's about the same length as like the last two episodes of season one. But unlike the show where you are invested in these characters, here you're not, because they skip. Like, people say, well, they have to remove some stuff to fit in an hour and 4 minute long runtime. Well, there's the problem. Avatar is one of those shows you can't really skip much of anything. I mean, aside from the Great Divide, I guess. But because there are characters and moments that happen in the show that are so vital that seem minor now, but would become vital later on in the series. But, like, I guess I'm wondering, though, I think we should be thankful that certain characters like King Boomy and Suki were removed, because that's just less characters to see be butchered. But I guess the one thankful grace we have is that this film flopped so hard that we never got book 2 and 3, because that way we wouldn't see characters like Toph or May and Ty Lee or Hama, or basically a lot of other characters, to see how they would be mutilated. Because, yeah. Like, I remember when this film came out, people were criticizing the characters' names being pronounced wrong, and yeah, that's annoying, but that's not even close to being the biggest problem with this film, so yeah. Honestly, at this point, I'm just kind of rambling because I'm just letting the credits roll. But yeah, it sucks. It's terrible. There's a reason this movie has the reputation of, if I remember correctly, if you go on Letterbox and you look up, if you look up what they consider the lowest rated films, I'm pretty sure Last Airbender is within the top row. It's up there with Dragon Ball Evolution, which I believe Letterbox considers the worst film of all time, which I remember that movie being just as bad. But it's up there with like Dragon Ball Evolution and that War of the Worlds movie that came out last year that everyone said was terrible. But yeah. Apparently the reason they called this movie The Last Airbender instead of Avatar: Last Airbender, because they didn't want to confuse audiences with James Cameron's Avatar that came out a year prior, which, fair, I guess. Say what you will, James Cameron's Avatar, at least that it's a completely made film, unlike this. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Honestly, and the thing is, I don't know if I should be blaming Shyamalan for this, because, or at least not entirely, because yeah, I know a lot of people put the blame on Shyamalan. I feel like really you should be putting the blame on the studio who hired him to direct this film. I felt like if you got someone like Peter Jackson, or I don't know, maybe Steven Spielberg, maybe they could have made something a little more tolerable. But as I said before, what's the point? What's the point of making a live action remake of one of the greatest animated shows of all time? Like, the show is perfect the way it is. Just watch like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's all I could say. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, I don't know. Like, I've heard some people describe this film as also being so bad it's funny, and maybe there are a few unintentionally funny moments, like some of the line deliveries can come off as unintentionally funny, but I'm sorry, this, as a fan of the show, it just pisses me off too much. Like, would I say this is worse than any of the Disney live action remakes? Objectively speaking, at least, yeah, it's at least the Disney live action remakes, as bad as many of them get, there's at least some attempt at emotion and decent pacing, but that, even then, it's just, but then again, maybe that's just my bias against live action adaptations of animated properties. It's that 90% of the time they end up being bad. At best, they're usually average or mediocre. Every now and then you might get a solid live action reimagining, like with Netflix's One Piece. Because as someone who's only watched a handful of episodes of the anime, I have to admit the Netflix adaptation is actually pretty solid. Like, at least the actors, for the most part, feel like the characters come to life. But yeah, I don't know. Shame no one showed up in the chat. I could tell people are watching, but no one really showed up for the chat for this, because it'd be nice to bounce off what people feel about this. But then again, I don't blame you if you didn't want to suffer through this film along with me, because this film really is just that terrible. So, but yeah, 1 out of 10. Like, there's barely anything positive I could say about it. I'm just glad I finally got this out of the way. And yes, this is so far the worst movie I watched for this watch on channel, and it probably will be remain the worst for a long time because I can't imagine any other movie I watch being even worse. But yeah. So that said, the credits are over. What do you guys think? Y'all hate this film as much as I do? I promise next watch along will be better. I mean, at least in terms like next there will be the next SNG4 episodes. I don't think I'll have time to do that though because I got work in a couple hours. So I'll do that either tonight or sometime tomorrow. Um, the next Shyamalan film will be After Earth, which I heard that film was also bad, but I can't imagine it'll be bad as this. So hope y'all enjoyed this, even though no one showed up in the chat. And I guess I will see you all in the next stream. So later.